I still blink in the sunset. You know I never wanna make you upset. How did I become so obsessed with this?
Welcome back. So you've probably heard me talk a lot about release work and why we should all be doing it. So for today's video, I will discuss the importance of release work, what happens to your body when you do it, and a nice little quick exercise that you can do before bed to release anything that you have been holding on to from the day. Welcome to my channel. My name is James Jerome and I help people manage and raise their vibration through self-discovery and meditations. If you are new, be sure to subscribe to my channel, comment, and hit the notification button and share this video with anyone you can think of. Okay, so release work is basically a name for consciously releasing heavy or negative emotions that you're holding on to. Heavy emotions can be felt in so many different areas of our body, and if you're feeling those emotions repeatedly, they can begin to affect your cell structure of the area where the emotions are stored over time. A lot of the time, if you go to bed with negative or stressful thinking, you can wake up and repeat the same thought spiral in the morning and throughout the day. Eventually, repeated thoughts and repeated thinking get stored in various parts of the body, and I've talked about this in another video. Also, if you've ever read the Emotion Code, there's a lot of research on this subject and a lot of information regarding how our bodies hold on to negative thoughts and where they are stored. So if you were to read your auric field or have a photo taken of your auric field, you would be able to see the colors firsthand, and a lot of the colors correspond to the emotions, get stored in and around certain areas of the body, especially with heavy, repeated negative emotional thinking. If you were to have your auric field photo done, you'd be able to see different areas of your body where the discoloration was being held as a physical proof of basically where that emotion is held. Over time, these emotions turn into limiting beliefs, chronic pain, illness, and if you held on to them long enough and if they were traumatic enough, those beliefs and illnesses can be stored in the DNA and then passed down into your generational children, into the generational family trees. So you could develop illnesses in a part of your body which could be due to the DNA replication from this past life, severe emotional imprint from your family members or from a past. And I'm talking about very heavy, traumatic emotional responses. Being broke or homeless probably might not be traumatic enough for the emotion to be stored into the DNA. The heavy emotional stuff I'm talking about is ritual abuse, genocide, family assault, murders, natural disasters, and heavy and extremely traumatizing situations which directly imprint the DNA and correspond to the body part where the trauma is held. Our minds, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what happens to our mind when we do become traumatized. The mind fragments and the trauma is basically held in an area of the body or brain that is subconscious so that your conscious mind doesn't have to deal with the trauma. What I mean by release work begins to unravel or reverse the heavy emotional imprinting process. And eventually, when you do it often enough, or if you do it often enough, you may even get into the trauma from the DNA or the alternate lives trauma that I was mentioning and begin to unravel the generational trauma, that thread of trauma that people seem to have going through their families that repeats itself. If you do your release work long enough, you will be able to eventually get into that. And just to be honest with you, I even have a hard time remembering to do that release work enough to get into that trauma of the past lives. However, a lot of the times it's not about how much you can do it versus how good you'll get, because sometimes when you are working on a particular part of your life or an area that you have been struggling with, Usually, if that area that you've been struggling with does have to do with the past lives or the DNA or your family trauma, that blockage can get removed on its own. It's something that you needed at the time. So when you're doing release work, you just have to be very centered in your mind so that you will be able to observe what comes up when you're doing it and not judge it in any way. A lot of the times, if you have something that you've tapped into a past life, it's what's needed in order to be released so that you can move on your journey of feeling better and your vibrational awareness is high and mighty and you're doing everything that you need to. When you do the release work, you basically are consciously demanding your mind and your body to let go of that which it no longer needs. How this works is that you want to remember that your mind and your brain has the ability to change and alter vibrational states. And so you absolutely have the ability to consciously demand your cells and body release and let go of that which is affecting you. So, with all of that being said, I know you are dying to know how I do my release work. That is when I remember to do my release work. So first, what you want to do is you want to begin by taking 3 deep cleansing breaths. That's how I start every meditation. I do 3 deep cleansing breaths. It's a release of in itself. If you ever have done 3 conscious cleansing breaths, you will immediately feel that sense of calm. So while you're doing your 3 breaths, you center your mind into your pineal gland, which is in the center of your head. And once you feel that your mind is centered and you have that initial 3 breaths have gotten you centered, you imagine a clear tube of silver light or energy going from the feet all the way up through your head and beyond into the ethers. This is your kind of like tube vacuum, the vacuum that you're going to send all of that crap up that you're releasing. You're sending it up into that vacuum. It's going to absorb it and it's going to just get rid of it. What you do is the tube, it kind of dissipates into the atmosphere above your head. However, it kind of comes down and surrounds your entire body. So that's how you're going to want to picture that after you do your 3 cleansing breaths. The third step is as you breathe your breath in, imagine all the heavy and negative crap that you've been holding on to getting sucked out of every cell and every muscle. So, you breathe in, it's all coming out, and then as you exhale, allow yourself to expel the gunk out and up into the silver tube, and then it gets sucked up away from your body and your mind. What you can do is you can just focus on doing the release work, or what I like to do is I like to repeat an affirmation or a phrase while I'm sending everything up. And one thing that I do, the thing is when you're working on vibration, you need to create affirmations that work for you in the moment. So I'm going to tell you an affirmation that works for me that you might want to use. It could give you an idea of how this kind of thing works. So repeat a releasing phrase, and it could sound something like this. I release that which I no longer need. I send all my sadness, pain, etc. up to my higher self so that I may live my life calm and balanced. I remove this person from my energy field. Another one could be, I no longer need this person in my life. I no longer need this place or this thing in order to feel good. I release that which I no longer need. I send it away. Something like that. You want to not only do the subconscious work of the breathing and the releasing, but the conscious mind work, the ego basically telling your ego by sending this affirmation and repeating it, everything is aligned, ego, subconscious. As you say your affirmation to assist in the removal of the negative energy, see if you can observe any colors or images drifting over your mind's eye. The mind's eye, that's why we center in the pineal gland, so we're ready in case anything comes up that we might find interesting. A lot of the times for me personally, I get murky greens and yellows that pass over my mind's eye when I'm doing the release work. And sometimes I get images as well, images of my childhood or images of a past life where the trauma had stemmed from. If you see anything passing over your mind's eye like this, be sure to write it down, as it will tune you to be able to see better every time you do it, and it will get easier and easier. And that's like with anything, you want to write it down because it trains your mind to be able to tap into the subtleties of this type of energy work, because if you don't see the subtleties, you could easily judge it as creating it in your mind or imagining it like I used to do. Try to do release work every night before bed. You probably will have a better sleep because of this, because if you do it at night, you release everything that you've been holding on to or that has happened to you during the day. If you have a lot of stress or a lot of drama in your life, you have to do the release work every time the emotion comes up during the day, every time you're triggered emotionally. You do not want to go down a path of negative thinking, because the law of attraction states that thoughts or anything vibrational will attract itself on a matching vibration. So if you start down a negative thinking path, the law of attraction will give you more thoughts to think about so that you go on your path. Release work stops it in its tracks. And you should be doing release work. Honestly, you should be doing release work every time you go on social media. You should be doing a type of release work if you're getting bombarded with a bunch of stuff that's creating an emotional reaction for you. Release work clears out the heavy, crappy emotions and thoughts that swirl around your head at any given time. And we replace it with what we want and what's going to work for us. If you're like me and you're prone to anxiety, you especially need to consciously release the heavy and negative emotions swirling around your head so that you don't create more anxiety and more stress for you. I am a walking example of that. And this is why I find release work so beneficial. If you notice a theme in your family lineage, release work can help as well. Deep release work, because you are tapping into the emotional trauma passed down from generations. Generational traumas can actually affect us quite deeply because they're so subconscious. In my family lineage, there has been a lot of German Jew DNA, and we all know what happened to the German Jews back in the day, and so that trauma can get passed down. And we might not know it, but if you look at the big picture of your family, you can see a theme, and the release work stops, or the release work corrects the emotional imbalance in its tracks. So I'm correcting the emotional trauma for my generational past. And if you want to know more about DNA and how our bodies store emotions, check out some of my other videos. Also, check out the book Emotion Code. I know that's a really good practical guide for another type of release work, just so you guys can get different viewpoints. And I think that's all for my video today. If you love my content, support my channel by subscribing and sharing this content, especially if you know anyone can benefit from it. Make sure you comment, because I want to hear from you how this work is going. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.